I always gauge how you're doing, buddy, by the amount of facial hair that you have.
Oh, yeah.
And by this standard, you've got it all together. You're clean-cut Shia.
No, not yet. I was going to shave this morning, but then I figured, nah, I can't do it.
A little bit of...
Just wanted to add a little texture to the interview. Just wanted to add a little texture.
You know I love you. I love what you've done with your life,
hey, thank
buddy.
you for being here.
No, it's my pleasure, man.
Yeah.
Well, where are we, first of all? Talk to us.
Okay, so we're at the Slauson Rec Center. We're in the Pueblos, or the Low Bottoms. You're in the heart of probably the most marginalized area in Los Angeles.
Right.
That's part of what brought us down here. You'll meet my boy Bobby later, but we were making a movie called Tax Collector, shooting the shit, chopping it up, talking about what our dreams were as little kids. He'd always dreamed of having a theater program. We met some guys who were from this neighborhood, a guy named Bone Sloan, another guy named Bojangles, Bow Wow, a couple other people who sort of run this neighborhood and here every day. They said, how can you be a service to this area? I only really know how to do one thing. And so me and Bobby came down here, sort of built this thing up, and it's been flourishing for the last 10 months.
Slauson Rec Theater Company.
Yes, sir.
And you said somewhere, all we're trying to do is just change the world, basically. So how can something like this change the planet?
Basically, we're trying to extend the playground. It's small, simple things that'll change the world, right? So around here, you don't have a lot of existential time in general. Right? So what we're trying to do is
simple in a way, right?
Yeah, it's basically survival out here.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no time for how do I feel, what do I think at all. So you don't wind up with a lot of creative outlets, period. You have a lot of meritocracy in the sports and whatnot, but you don't have a lot of how do I feel, what do I think at all.
So every Saturday you're here.
Yes.
It's a 5-hour class. Anybody's welcome, non-actors welcome?
Everybody's welcome. Bow Wow's in our class, 9:30 to 2:30.
Yeah.
You have actors, you have non-actors, you have it runs the gamut, really.
Yeah.
I mean, we're sitting on their domino table, right? So like we're in their area, you know what I mean? It's his area, it's not my area. I'm a visitor here.
Right.
White people don't come down here in general.
Right.
So in a way, we're trying to level the playing field a bit and bring people like James Cameron into the class.
He's been here?
Yeah, Tim Robbins, people like that are they support our thing. They come in here, they teach class. The head coach of the New York Knicks was in here. So it's just like we've been mixing it up. You know? Celebrity chefs. Cash was in here yesterday. Musicians, Thundercat, Cuddy. Everybody's been down here. So we're building we're trying to build a cultural hub, a place that where we can sprout out from. And so we've been building devised theater in that rec center right there. And things have been really beautiful so far.
Yeah, when I see on Twitter people like James Cameron and Kim Kardashian West both tweeting about it.
Crazy.
You're running the gamut officially.
Yeah, high and low, and low and high, in all ways. And I feel like that was always the goal.
Yeah.
The fact that it's coming to fruition and it's actualized now is insane.
So what are the tenets of what you're trying to teach in there, and where's that derived from? You're a popular man in the neighborhood, I know.
No, well, people run the spot. You got to kiss the ring.
Yeah.
There's a book called Moment Work.
Right.
And Moises Kaufman wrote this book on devised theater. These are the guys who wrote Laramie Project and other things. And the way they did it was they basically diverted wholly from the way theater's been being produced generations, which is old white men in a room writing a play for everyone else.
Right.
And so we wanted to get away from that. That was where it started, really. And then we found a book that sort of spoke to that sensibility, which is this Moises Kaufman Moment Work book. Devised theater is essentially where the players write the work instead of the writer writing the work. You don't have actors, directors, writers, you have moment makers.
Right. So
it's quite egalitarian. It's very democratic. And so in a way, we're trying to mimic some utopian society in here. And that has its, sometimes we win, sometimes we lose.
But everyone's got a story to tell, and everyone brings their story.
And everyone has a say.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't get to say, oh, it's going to be this way this week. We all kind of vote.
Yeah.
Which is why it's taken so long for us to build 10 minutes of work.
Yeah.
It's taken us 10 months to build 10 minutes. A month a minute, pretty much.
Where were you at when this came around? What did you need this as much as you think the community needs
I also need friends, man. I'm lonely as So part of me was yes, I wanted to build this thing, but it was also me and Bobby fell in love with each other. The dude became my best friend, and then we sort of clicked up on, well, what do we want to do after this movie's over?
Right.
And both of us are in love with this craft and wanted to share the craft with people who don't have it. I'm from a different part of Los Angeles than Bobby. Bobby's from South Central. I'm from Echo Park before it was cute, and we never had opportunities. You know, Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, just the first outlets we ever had.
Right.
We couldn't afford to go to Strasberg Stanislavski School. There was no college on the agenda. Right. I knew at 10 years old I wasn't going to school. That's why I became an actor. It was you need to hustle now because we're broke. And most everybody in my class is from the same kind of upbringing.
Yeah.
And we're trying to impart some of the luck and wisdom that we've received over the time that we've been doing this on the people who are involved in our group.
June 29th is a big day coming up for you.
Huge.
Because you guys are going to throw a little party to help the cause here.
Yes.
Who's going to be there? What's going down?
Okay, so we're having a big fundraiser, sort of a benefit concert. It's going to be YG, Jaden Smith, Vic Mensa, Kamaya, Baby Keem, David Blaine, Baths, Cash, Slater, now Bustamante. You know, these are people who are in museums. We're doing like a 5-minute preview. Elijah Daniels will be there. There's going to be Shlomo will be DJing. It's going to be a good night for a good thing.
Where do you go back to with, you worked with Will, where do you go back to with Jaden?
Well, I know Jaden since before he was ever doing the entertainment thing.
Yeah.
I knew Jaden when we were playing Sonic the Hedgehog in his dad's trailer, you know? I didn't even really give a about acting at that time.
Right.
You know, I was just grinding. I cared about Will Smith at that time. You
Right.
know? I didn't care about acting, the craft. And then Will's, you know, always been like a really good dude to me. Calls me up every time a movie comes out, always wishes me well. He's just always been like a shepherd in my corner from afar without ever tooting the horn in public. He's just always been there for me. Every time I up or get in trouble, he's always been there for me.
Right.
Jaden's just sort of always showed up every time that I've done something publicly. So all these public performance artists, things that I've done with Luke and Nasha, he's always showed up and supported. So we've been in touch that way. And then I've been watching him float and rise to the top, you know, and grab a hold of his craft and become some kind of little maestro.
Yeah.
He knows a lot of the same people that I know, and we just sort of been piggybacking off each other for a while. He was the first artist in. And then from Jaden really came a lot of these other artists because he's popping right now and his album's coming out on the 28th.
I just want to eavesdrop on some of your conversations. I feel like that's next level that I'm not even ready for.
It's as existential as this gets.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're blessed in that we are able to be existential because none of us are like, you know, thinking about how am I going to eat today.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about, since we've been talking for so many years, I want to name a project or a person. You tell me sort of like how that has informed your process to where you are now in your life, okay?
Okay.
Let's go all the way back, even Stevens.
Okay.
Like, does anything in that apply to your life, your approach to the craft, to the Shia I see sitting here today?
That's when cameras disappeared. That's when, like, there's like the thing we do in here is like, if you put your hand out, right? Do this with me.
Okay.
Put your hand out. You're looking at your hand.
Yeah.
And then make the background disappear. Like you can focus enough on that hand to where everything else sort of disappears. It's like this supreme focus. And then you can zoom out on the hand, and then I can see you. You know, you can start playing with your focus that way. I don't know if that's like a good analogy of what even Stevens gave me, but it freed me up in front of cameras.
Yeah.
It took away the fear of being in front of a camera. It made a camera my friend. It was like recess. It was like a playground. You know, it was really like a sandbox, and we had a great time. And I had a great time.
Nothing but love for
Nothing
those
but
early
love.
days.
It's also I got to meet my father again. You know, my dad was in jail, got out of jail. We weren't spending a lot of time together, and then when he got out of jail, you know, we moved in a motel in Playa del Rey next to the Fox Hills Mall, and we're living there for 4 years, and that's how I got to know my dad.
Wow.
So it was like Rent-A-Dad, which is really what Honey Boy is about.
Well, let's jump to that since you mentioned it. That one was very well received, to say the least, recently in Sundance. You wrote that one. You star in that one as a version of your own dad.
Yeah.
What do you get out of an experience like that, man? That's trippy. That's
Yeah, it saved my life. They were throwing dirt on my back.
yeah.
Yeah, saved me.
You wrote it. You were in therapy. I mean, you were in rehab.
Yeah,
rather.
yeah, and worse than that. Yeah. I
And-
mean, that's a cute way of saying where I was at. You know, I was totally lost and like quite apathetic to my whole craft and my life.
Yeah.
And walked into therapy with a Sam Shepard. Sam Shepard plays, and Sam Shepard had just died, and I hadn't talked to my dad in like something like 6 years, and I had no creative friends. Really like bottom barrel for me, which is what I needed. You know, I wasn't gonna stop doing what I was doing until that happened to me. Some people are just really stubborn. I'm one of those.
Would you let, if you have kids, would you ever let your kids get into this business?
Oh man, no telling. I know that it's been the most consistent relationship I've had with anything in my whole life. It's been nothing but blessings for me. You hear these horror stories of people in Hollywood. It's never been that way for me. Hollywood's always saved me from the other stuff.
That's the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never had none of the weird, tricky. Never.
Right. It sounds insane to go back to this now, but let me go back to the career really quickly. So we covered even Stevens. We did it.
Yeah.
Holes. What do you get out of Holes?
Oh,
There's so much love for Hole still.
Yeah, they all come into this class. You know, I'm still friends with these people.
They've been some of your co-stars from
Yeah,
that one?
Byron, who's in the movie, is from this neighborhood. He's from the Pueblo, so he comes in here Saturdays. You know, so I know a lot of them still. I still see all these people all the time.
What about the man that's ruling the universe right now? Keanu Reeves has taken over the planet.
Yeah, good man.
Did you
good
learn something
on
from Keanu?
That being a good dude pays off.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the real good ones.
He
He's
is.
just a mensch.
No one has ever had a bad word.
And if they do, you got to question them.
Yeah.
Because he's really a sweet-souled man.
Right.
And is like due, you know, for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Spielberg years, I'll call it that.
Yes.
You know, Transformers.
Yes.
Indiana Jones.
Yes.
Dipping your toe into that world. More than dipping your toe, living that life for a few years.
Yes.
You've been through it with that, but you came out
Yes.
the other side.
Yes.
You survived.
Yes.
So can you look back on it with a smile now? I guess you can.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it shapes you, you know, it teaches you how to be on a different kind of set, in front of a different kind of lens.
Yeah.
Work with a different kind of director. Yeah, and with a different kind of cast. And, you know, that was just much bigger than me. I felt quite overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and really like working on something where I was a fan of the material.
Right.
Transformers was my childhood.
Right.
So it mattered more to me than anything. Really, that first time was like, it mattered. It really mattered. And yeah, I saw Megan this morning, you know, at a table read. I'm still friends with these people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You haven't been in like a studio film in about 5 years.
Right.
Right?
Maybe longer.
I mean, how often do you see a studio film and say, I could see myself in that? Because, you know, 80% of it, as you know, is comic book film. Some of it's good, some of it's bad.
Yes.
Do you feel like you have to play in that arena to be a viable actor in the marketplace today, or do you care, or what?
I mean, listen, I'm not against any of it.
Yeah.
I'm probably headed towards it. But no, it's not. I don't pick roles based on like who's producing the movie.
Yeah.
You know? No way. I was doing studio films for a while and lost my sensibilities and my connection to the material. Studio films in general, when you have to make a movie for a big general audience, you have to be less specific.
Right.
And the less specific you are, the less meat you have to chew on.
Right.
The less meat you have to chew on, the less interesting it is for the actor.
Right.
So I'm not gonna shit on nothing, but yeah, I've just found my way to, one, survive,
Yep.
and two, be able to flourish.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like my best stuff has come in the last 5 years, and none of that was studio work.
Yeah, I mean, I think about the last 5 years and things like American Honey.
Yeah.
You have Peanut Butter Falcon coming out later this year, which got great reception at South by.
Yeah.
Can you allow yourself to take a little bit of pride in where you're at today,
Yeah.
given how much you've been through?
Of course. Yeah, of course. I'm blessed beyond all imagination.
Yeah.
Not just the movies that I've been able to make, but the people I've been able to make it with.
And how do you take care of yourself? Because as we know, like, sometimes that's been easier said than done.
Yes. I mean, I have a good group around me now.
Yeah.
I'm closer to my family than I ever have been before. I got 250 people who hold me down. I mean, it's not like we just come in here and dip. It's like we're very close.
Right.
I've never had my feet as firmly planted in the floor as I do now. I've never felt more human. All the has dissipated. Like all the, you get in a movie with Spielberg, it's like grabbing onto a rocket ship.
Yep.
You know, and then you're outer space and you're in orbit.
Yep.
Yeah. So then you crash land. For some,
Some,
you know,
yeah.
or some have a parachute.
Eventually, yeah.
And then you find your footing again. And
Yeah.
and if you're lucky, you're still making movies at that point.
Right.
And I'm one of the lucky ones, and I know that. I'm very aware of how lucky I am. I'm on my 9th life.
You said before, earlier in the conversation, that, you know, I don't know how facetious you were being, that you needed friends.
Yes.
Well, what are you talking
Nothing facetious about that.
about? Why?
We all do.
Did
So do
people
you.
abandon you? Did, like...
No, I just I don't even think it's about quality of friends. I think it's
Yeah.
about quantity.
You literally didn't have the numbers
I
you...
didn't have the numbers that I needed. Listen, man, we're tribal creatures.
Yeah.
And if you look like domestic marriages, you know, it's 3 people, 4 people. That's not the way humans were built to live.
Yeah.
We were built to have like groups of 60, 70. Yeah. So that's how we've survived since the caveman days. And I don't know what happened since since the 50s. The nuclear family is quite poisonous.
Right.
And so I'm building a theater group, but I'm also building that group of people that I need in my life. It's a family.
I believe it because, like, again, when I think back to our conversations, like, the 2 words that come to mind that often come in our conversations are truth and connection.
Yeah.
I think. And
Yeah.
that's hopeful. It sounds like that's what you're trying to get at in
Big
there.
time. And in my work. I mean, so to go back to like studio film or independent films, you know, it feels like one is wary of truth and connection.
Right.
Because they have to be. Yeah. Because films aren't as. Music is the last equalizer. It's not movies. Movies are not equalizers like music is anymore. So in that way, movies have to play it safe on the connection tip and the truth tip. You
Right.
can only go so far or connect so deeply.
Yeah.
Because then you isolate other people. In theater, it's not that way anymore. Theater still is an equalizer.
Yep. we've talked about the extremes you've gone to for roles over the years. Where are you at in that kind of philosophy? Like, you beat yourself up. I mean, you really put yourself through it on things like Fury, Charlie Countryman.
Yeah.
Maybe to some unnecessarily so.
For sure.
How do you look back on those kind of
This is a young actor
trips?
trying to find his way, right? So again, I never went to Strasberg, Stanislavski, nothing.
Yeah.
I just sort of read stories about the people that I loved and tried to mimic that.
Right.
And you know,
and if
I
that
come,
meant,
and so I come from looking up to Sean Penn's, you know.
right.
And you do it until it doesn't work. You find out where the boundaries are. You know, I feel like at this point, I'm finding a way to make that stuff malleable.
Right.
You know, it wasn't malleable before.
So if an opportunity like those came up around again, tell me you're not for Charlie Countryman. Tell me at this point you're not gonna take a drug for a role.
No.
Obviously, with what you've been through.
But I also wouldn't take the role.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in a different place where I actually, and this is crazy, even though I've been like, you know, walking through mud, I do get to be picky about my stuff, and I have a place to go when I'm not working.
Right.
It's not like I have nothing going on in my life and I need to get to set. You know, I'm not broke. I'm not strapped for cash. I'm not strapped for creativity. I mean, I have like my little domain. So.
Yeah. So it's gratitude right now because you found kind of like I mean, you're getting something out of this.
Yeah. I mean, my dad was a heroin junkie. You know what I mean? I didn't touch heroin.
Yeah.
So I'm finding my way. But if you had talked to that kid, you know, I was 20, 23, 24.
Yeah.
You know, I was a scared actor who thought he was The world thought I was It was sort of like, hey, he's the Transformers kid trying to be a real actor over here.
Right.
Yeah, so I was bucking against my insecurity. I was desperate to prove myself. I'd be in the face of Mads Mikkelsen, having just watched Valhalla Rising, thinking like, I'm not to this man.
Right.
And yeah, that's me like trying to find my confidence.
Yeah.
Not even my skill set, just my confidence. In the same way that even Stevens gave me a confidence in front of the lens, when you get in front of real G's, when you start meeting the Michael Jordans, the people you look up to,
the Gary Oldmans.
Gary Oldmans, Mads Mikkelsens,
Right.
Tom Hardy, you
Yep.
start getting in front of these people, insecurity washes like a wave.
Yeah.
And unless you have a real confidence in your own craft, you can't meet a God as a human.
Right.
They'll just eat you, you know? So you got to find the God in you, you know? And,
Yeah.
I've worked my way into a confidence level that allows me to see eye to eye with pretty much everybody at this point, except for a couple of the names we mentioned.
So what do you think we're talking about in our next chat in 3 to 5 years? Hopefully it's not that long. It's futile to chart out a career, as you well know. We could have
Yes.
said that 10 years ago, but especially now, it seems like you're at another interesting point where anything can come. Mm-hmm. Are you setting goals, or is it just sort of like living in the moment?
Yeah, I have goals for this. I mean,
So what are the goals for this?
The goals for this is really to change theater, right? We tried to build a theater for people who don't with theater.
Yeah.
And if you look at like people who go to see theater now, they're old and white.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bow Wow. When's the last time you saw a play, my dude?
Yesterday?
Oh.
Which our stuff? I'm not our. I'm talking about any play.
Oh, no.
See, never.
There you go.
Right. So we're trying to make a theater for people who don't with theater at all. Not just like people from this neighborhood, but I want people to line up for theater like they line up for cell phones.
Right,
Yeah. I'm
right.
trying to create connection
Yeah.
between people who don't with theater and people who go to theater now.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to build.
Was there a shift when you were a kid where some of these ideas started to percolate in your brain? Because we've talked before, you were like Disney Channel, Nickelodeon kid.
Totally.
But
Yeah.
did this stuff happen in the last 10 years, or were you exposed to this stuff also when you were a kid?
Ups have a way of introducing yourself to yourself.
Uh-huh.
You know, like and you hit the wall enough, you start reflecting.
Right.
And so
You've
I
had
wasn't.
time to reflect.
Yeah. When you're on a rocket and you're in space, there's no reflection. You're in
Right.
awe. I'm in space.
I'm a god. Nothing can touch me.
There was all that too.
Yeah.
Just like no humility.
Right.
The world had been handed to me on a silver platter. I
Right.
did not know why. I could not sit back and go, ooh, it's because I had done all this work in school or in. It was just sort of handed to me, and
Right.
I had a hard time coming to terms with that. It's like being a trust fund baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna up.
Yeah, it's funny because if you look back on it now, I would imagine one way to interpret the past is like if you hadn't had a couple of the professional or personal ups, you might not even be here.
Correct. Nor would I have a well as full as it is. My well is full.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that comes from a certain kind of life. I talk about looking up to Sean Penn's and the Gary Oldmans.
Yeah.
It's not just their careers. They had to have a certain kind of life experience to be able to pull some of these roles off.
Yep.
So in a way, I was reading like these Easy Riders, Raging Bull books and looking up to the Bukowskis, but also trying to desperately earn my seat.
Right.
And that's not just through the roles. You got to get arrested a few times.
Yeah.
At least this was my thinking, my Daria postmodern view of acting, you know? And so I chased a certain kind of thing.
Right.
I'm not saying every up was conscious.
Sure.
But I wasn't not conscious of it.
Right.
Yeah. And so I would get arrested. It'd be the times where my dad would be like, "Apple doesn't fall far from the tree, huh, son?" it wasn't like Transformers did that for me.
Right.
It's not like I made Transformers and my dad's like, yeah, you and me, we're the same. We're built the same, you know? It wasn't like that. Sean Penn's and the Gary Oldmans, they didn't give a about my Transformers. They cared about my human.
Right.
And now when I get around them, there is this connection on a certain level that comes from a certain kind of lifestyle. I'm not saying that this is the way it needed to be.
No,
I'm just
but
saying this is what it was.
Ironically, you did live the life to it. Your version of that life that you kind of aspired to.
Yes.
Okay, June 29th is the day.
Yes.
We're going to get the good word out on this one, right?
Thank you.
And this is just going to get bigger and better, and we're going to find more connection with people that aren't exposed to crazy theater and awesome theater, and, right?
Arts in general. There's no arts down here.
Yeah.
You know, me and Bobby are public school kids.
Right.
The first thing that they cut, arts programs. Arts programs have been cut completely. You still have sports programs and this and that, but you don't have arts programs anymore in public school. So if you're a public school kid and you were my age coming up before even Stevens, we at least had like drama programs.
Right.
They were on their way out, but you at least had them. You don't have them anymore at all.
Yeah.
Everything's just moving into trade school, like from a very young age.
Right.
Like 6 years old, you're gonna be a plumber.
Right.
Period. No option for you. I don't want to sound as cheeseball as like I'm trying to give back, but I'm actually trying to like, this is a very selfish thing down here. Yeah, I'm not on some altruistic, you know, save the world type shit in full.
Yeah.
I'm down here trying to create good work. And I know that good work comes from life experience. And I know that we have a bunch of full wells in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome to see you in this element, man.
Yeah.
Where you're obviously, as you said, it's altruistic, but it's helping you, which I'm happy about too, because you know you deserve good things, man. You've been through it.
I appreciate you saying that.
You've been through the ringer, and go easy on yourself.
I have been.
Okay,
yeah,
good,
yeah,
good,
yeah.
good, good. I want to see you always in a good place because you're too talented.
Not always in a good place. That'd be fascistic.
Well,
But I'm in a good spot more now so than I ever have been.
That's awesome.
Yeah.